Good morning, Ben. Great to see you. How you been?
Same here, Scott. Been a while. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's always good to chat with you about these things. We're going to talk a little bit today about going from the on-premise solution to the cloud. I know you and I have worked together since the early 2000s with a couple on-prem systems, and then we moved to the cloud a couple years back. That's what we're going to focus on today. Would you remind me again what the situation was before we took you to the cloud?
Internally, we had obviously a pretty vast multi-company environment. It was an in-house, Dell servers. We had to spend a boatload of money on cooling systems and all that other nonsense to keep those guys up. We were using Solomon 4, which transitioned into Dynamics SL. So we had been on that Microsoft Dynamics Solomon platform for me personally, I'm a little old, but so it was DOS. Solomon 3 was how I cut my teeth. So I'd been on that product for years and years. We'd always hosted it internally. So that was sort of the, taking up a lot of real estate in the building, spending just boatloads of cash on maintaining servers, having, dedicated IT staff, that sort of thing.
It actually, so my next question, I think you answered some of it, and it was, what are your biggest pain points that you had with SL? And then what said, I'm really going to look at this and make a change?
Yeah, so really a whole host of things. Setting the sort of the software issue aside, because we were having issues with respect to Dynamics, which was acquired by various individuals, and then there wasn't the updates that we were dealing with there. And then on the hardware side, for us having to maintain our own data system, our data structure internally. Had to go out and spend, I don't think we spent like 25 or 26 grand on a 21,000 kilowatt generator to put that in the building. We had, basically an office was taken up by our IT server racks. We had 2 full-time IT guys on our staff. In our company at the time, we had probably 8 or 10 offsite locations, both in the US and Canada. So folks always trying to get in and get to stuff. So hardware was always sort of this ongoing issue. Server down, power out, whatever. So we were dealing with that nonsense just because the area that we're in, we have ice storms and all this other, we live in the same area. So it's just sort of, it's what we're used to, right? So dealing with that nonsense. And then also too, with respect to the software itself, having to deal with, version changes and all that other stuff and having that, so over time, it became more irritating as time went on, right? So, my initial thing is like, all right, well, I don't want to put, I don't know if I'm reading ahead or whatever, but for us, I didn't want to put all of our stuff in the cloud. I wanted to have it nice and secure on site where I knew it was at and everything was going on. But then, so there's that side of Ben, and the other side was, all right, well, we're having issues with respect to backups and making sure that the backups are being done timely and having to go back and restore things and all that stuff, right? So I guess it just kind of was a death by 1,000 paper cuts for us,
right?
That we just kept. So my partners, I'm the CFO, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, so I'm the numbers guy, but my partners are not. They're sales guys, and they don't want to spend any money. Right. So they're figuring, well, we've already paid for all the stuff. Why do we want to go ahead and do that? So that was, in terms of sort of a slow, perpetual thing, is not just dealing with that for me as a frustration in my team, but also trying to coach up my partners and getting them to buy into the fact that, hey, this is not going to be sustainable in the long run. We got to do something. But as you know, and a couple of my partners fairly well, that they tend to, it's squeezing every last bit of copper out of each penny. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
it does. And it actually reminds me of a story when we were talking. And so with on-prem software, we know that time would go by and then you would do upgrades. And this is across the board. And I remember that you had done an upgrade of SL, and then you went to run, at the time it was FRX, and the reports wouldn't run. And it took all this time to resolve it. And it was due to monitor resolution.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. It was a very painful part of my existence, and it was a nightmare. So there's that. Plus, we had all of these integrated modules that were, some of which we created, like a time and expense, because we're dealing, it's a job cost environment where people are putting their time to projects. So when a update would come through, we would have a situation where the software was updated, but what we had designed to work internally no longer communicated properly. And to your point about the FRX reporting, I'd forgotten about that. And then it went to whatever the next reporting.
Management reporter.
Yes. So it was like, whatever. So like I said, death by 1,000 paper cuts for us. And it was, you know, the way I ended up getting it sort of over to my partners and was trying to explain that if you want us to continue to use this product, I'm going to have to add bodies. So I'm either going to pay people or I'm going to process it out. What do you want to do? And then all of a sudden it started becoming real for them. So in hindsight, I probably should have had a discussion earlier, but, you know,
right.
Make everybody happy and end up making nobody happy.
So we moved you from Dynamics SL to Sage Intacct a few years ago. What was the first thing when we implemented that made you say, wow?
Looking at all of that server equipment that I no longer needed was sort of the first step, right? But for me, we have, in addition to our companies, I run, we have an angel fund. So I run basically 17 companies that we're invested in, and my staff does all the accounting for them. So the first thing that was just immediately apparent to me is how easy it was to integrate everybody all into one. And then just by giving rights to my partners and whoever needed the information, they're getting it real time. Whereas in the old days, export to Excel, put some perfume on the pig, send the report out. It just became, and if anything changed formatting wise, you had to go back and figure out where it was at. Now it was fully automated. So for me, it was like that integration part, setting aside the solving of the issue of all the hardware and all that nonsense. The main thing was getting at sort of that already built in accessibility, and it was very easy. And, of course, and not to blow smoke, but your guys' team were excellent in the conversion process, talked us through how to, get the data that we needed, encouraged us not to bring over stuff we didn't need. Let's not start our bad habits again. Let's not bring our bad habits with us, which was great. And in hindsight, that was fantastic. So we changed our chart of accounts. We changed a lot of stuff at your guys' recommendation, and it's just sort of been great.
Do you wish you would have done it sooner?
Dude, yeah. So, like I said, for me, I was whining and moaning about it, and so was my staff for years. But my partners were very reluctant because, it's not an insignificant cost to convert. Plus, oh, by the way, you're running a company, you're trying to rewire the 747 at 40,000 feet. It's not very convenient, right? So I will say in the conversion process for us, the way you guys set it up is we did sandbox. We ran basically a dual system of old and new at the same time. We had forecasted running it for 3 months. We were good to go after about 3 weeks. Very seamless and we were very confident. And like I said, it's been off to the races since then. So yeah, long answer to your short question is I would have done it, decades ago. But I think really over the course of the last 5 years, the whole industry has really matured so much that a lot of the stuff that we were concerned about maybe in the beginning of the early 2016, 17, 18, sort of that time frame has all been sort of processed out now. It's just very some of the concerns like lagging, getting to your data, getting reporting out, dealing with stuff being offsite. It's been a total non-issue for us. I'm literally, getting stuff immediately. In fact, right before this call, I was pulling some reporting out for one of my partners and got on bang really quick and, no issues whatsoever. Now, the girls won't let me do journal entries, so that makes things easier. So I'm not allowed to do that kind of stuff anymore. But that's girls. All my staff is female, and they run the joint. I'm just here. But that said, is that everything has been processed out. It's consistent across the organization, and my partners can get real-time information. And of course, those other modules that we have to get now because you show me the new things. So one thing you're good at is allowing me to spend some more money. But there's stuff now that we've been doing this for several years that these new modules make a ton of sense for us and are allowing me to replace with FTE body count, that reporting efficiency and getting out the management reporting quicker that we need to do for people.
So I have lots of customers that are still on-prem. Many of them have hesitated. They're still reluctant to not only engage in it, they're just like, well, we're not sure we want to do it. What would you tell those same customers based on your experience?
Well, the waiting is just going to make it's like anything else in life. The longer you wait to fix a problem, the worse it's going to be when you fix it. When you make that change. So I would say sooner rather than later to make the transition. I suspect, unless it depends on size of the company, the complexity, and it's everything is sort of made worse by size and scope. So if there's super large companies, I would say that don't be afraid of making the transition. Just know that you're just having more bodies and more process, right? But
Right.
the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to make that transition down the road. And for us, getting rid of all that hardware and getting, we were able to cut virtually our entire IT department, which was,
Right.
I feel bad for the guys, but whatever, I got a business to run.
Right.
But I don't have to deal with any of that nonsense anymore. All the hardware is gone. In fact, we still got a couple. If you know anybody that wants a refrigerated server cabinet, let me know. That's the only thing we've got left that I couldn't sell. And then I got this generator, which I don't know what we're going to do with, but I don't need any of that stuff anymore, right?
Okay.
So the longer you wait, you're not gaining anything by waiting. The fact, I guess, like my partners, we've already paid for it. It's already here on site. Everything's secure. We've already made this investment. Why would we want to start over again? Well, why you want to start over again is because you're having to pay to maintain that. You figure out what the costs are to maintain that. Network card goes out, hard drive, whatever, right? You know the drill.
Right.
It's just going to perpetuate itself. So the longer you wait, those costs are not going down. Equipment is not getting any cheaper. And the cloud, we've literally had no issues. I mean, if there's a data security concern or whatever, there's so many millions of people out there that have their stuff in the cloud. And, besides, the government knows everything that's going on already. So what does it matter, right? So I got nothing to hide. Bring it.
Right. So when you had upgrades before, we know, and you had mentioned that things would break that you had written, and we knew that there was always time between upgrades. Moving to Sage Intacct, you get 4 upgrades per year. They just happen.
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah, we don't.
How has it been for you? Is it breaking anything? Does it work?
I always work under the assumption that no news is good news, and nobody is yelling at me. My phone's not blowing up, so I haven't heard anybody complaining. So any changes that are made are sort of incremental and behind the scenes, and it's always because of an efficiency thing. So if there's ever anything that happens change-wise and it doesn't work for us, certainly, Beth or my team would let me know. But, I haven't heard a peep. So, and I don't perceive anything different. I will say that, the reporting, I don't know if it's something behind the scenes or whatever, but the reporting seems like it's getting faster, extracting data out. So I don't know if they've made changes on the backside, but, those kind of performance tweaks, I suspect are happening all the time. But the good news is that once it's rolled out by Sage, everybody gets it. So it's not like it's kind of bad for you guys, because back in the day you were getting paid for that. So now, we're not paying you to do that. It's all part of our fee, right? But so when you're looking at it from a cost perspective, making sure that you're looking at your current licensing situation with your on-premise stuff, how much it costs to maintain the equipment, the body count that you've got involved to maintain that equipment, all of that stuff you have to aggregate to really figure out what the true cost is. So once you do that, you figure out that going to a hosted solution like Sage Intacct is, in the long run, much more efficient use of time. And, oh, by the way, I don't have to, wait, 2 or 3 days to get a report out from somebody. It's literally now, right? So from an efficiency standpoint, and I don't know how you measure that, the ability to execute a piece of work or, drop a bid in using prior bid information, whereas before it would be export to Excel, sort, blah, 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 and then send the report out. Now the guys can just grab whatever they want when they need it, and they're good to go. So
that's great. Well, Ben, I appreciate your time today. You've been a great customer over the years, a better friend, and I always appreciate you being willing to talk to me and talk to our customers and walk through this.
100% glad to do it. And, if there's any other questions, we're happy to, act as a guinea pig if you need it. You know the drill. Just give Ben a call and we'll see if we can help you out.
That sounds great. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great day.